Hi everybody. So the reason I'm doing some narration to this particular hunt is because some of the footage was lost, unfortunately. That's the nature of sort of hunting in the conditions we were hunting in, which was quite cold, windy, and brutal. And for whatever reason, I don't know if I lost the SD cards or whatever, but I don't normally do this style of narration, but I want to do some explaining throughout. This hunt was something that was new to me in a certain way. I'd never hunted New Hampshire. I had points on a road that Brad Willie had given me and said, go try these spots. I had no idea that I was going to be hunting basically the high peaks of the Adirondacks. That's very, I mean, if you look on a map, if you go across from east to west, that's where I was. I was in the presidential range of New Hampshire. And I don't think I prepared myself mentally for that. Where I hunt in the Adirondacks isn't typically that steep and rough. Plus, I walked in a little bit sick, and so I had to make a determination at that point. Plus, I had a camera guy. So I felt like I had a lot of things that were against me. And I think I was just wore out from the season because it was the last week of the season. What I'm doing is I'm framing out why I made the decisions I made, specifically why I stayed on one old buck for the entire week with a camera guy. This particular animal that we found when we first discovered him was in a bed in a swamp, surrounded by sign that he had been feeding all night or actually for a couple of days prior. And I knew what that meant. I knew this was a buck that was exhausted, needed to fill up, needed to chew his cud, needed to sleep to recover from a long rut. We're on a monster. We're on a monster. Beautiful track. Beautiful. Yeah. The other thing is, he was the longest buck I've ever tracked. He had a stride on him well over 24 inches, and he was extraordinarily large. Do you want to take that up and over? This one's a lot bigger, dude. I say we stay on. Yeah. Good. Oh, yeah. Good physically. Oh, yeah. Yep. We're not going to hammer because he could be here. Yeah. I'm going to have to jump shoot him because I want to make some time. Yep. Yeah. But we can't be loud. Yep. Okay. So step where I step. Yep. So I told my camera guy, Noah, I said, listen, we're going to stay on this guy. And we're going to stay on him until dark, either shoot him by dark or not. And then the next day we're going to go right back to where we left him and make a go of it. And Noah kept asking, why would we do that? You know, I said, first of all, we'll have to catch up with him, and we can, because this buck is that tired. Oh. meters. It could be miles. Each day, what I did not account for was the amount of snow that we would get and the physicality of the hunt wearing me out, and the amount of snow that was burying the tracks, and wind. So some days we would get back on his track and I would have to really do some sleuthing. I made some mistakes along the way, got off the track, had to get back on the track. But we experienced this buck many times over the course of those days. And so for 4.5 days, basically 5 days, we tracked every single track of that buck. And what was great about that is at night, when we would leave the track, that buck would get into his nightly mode, and I would learn how far does he go from one bed to another, how much does he feed, when does he. So I would have this canvas of information that was awesome. All right, so yesterday we didn't do a recap because we didn't get out until dark, but we got close to that buck, very close actually, twice, about 60 yards, but I screwed up at the end of the track, ironically, about 60 yards from the buck. I thought the track was a different buck's track because we got into a mess, and we ended up blowing him out, so we're going in after him today. Alright, so we found his track. It's just dimples in the snow because we got about 2 to 3 inches last night. And what this buck did is he came up here. Take a look. Came up, went this way. Down there like a big giant bathtub, then got up, and we're making time through the night doing this. Yesterday, he's probably eye-spying us from across this valley right now, but it's been 12 hours, 15 hours, so we're going to see if there's another bed on that side. But he's not even feeding because these are the areas he had to chew his cud from yesterday.
when we kicked him out of the swamp, he had eaten all day and all night. You could see the place just tore up. And when we kicked him out at like 50 yards, he was still eating. But we didn't give him a chance to chew his cud. So we chewed it there, here, all through the night. Now in this one, there's less snow. So in the middle of the night, he got up. There's less snow than in that one. So in the middle of the night, he got up and wandered down here. Now, based on yesterday, I would normally go up and come down on him because he's looking across this valley. Probably sees us right now, to be honest. But if he can't, I would do that. But because the tracks are so hard to see and they're blowing out in big sections, I don't want to lose his track. So we're going to go down, we're going to come up, and we're going to really creep. And I want to get him on the first try because he's a rangy dude. All right, wish us luck. So we're learning a bit about this buck. He doesn't feed much and lays down, feeds maybe 100 or 200 yards, but not much. Lays down. We also know he's got a rack like this from the tine marks. So he's not far. He's now just got a dusting of snow in the bed. So making time now. This is good. Must have fed. He's bedded right up here. The camera see that? Yeah. Okay. So we gotta be really careful because he's probably eye spying us right now. He's probably gone. But if he's high enough on this ridge, as long as I don't poke my head up too quick, we got a shot at him. He's exhausted. There he goes. He just went that way. Right up over the hill. You saw him go. Yeah, he's a monster. Quite a wind. Yeah. He's big. Alright, it's game on. He's really big. I was looking over here. Yep. No. Oh man. You'd have had a shot too.
That's how it goes.
But you know, that's why you have a camera guy. You have 4 eyes.
Yep. Marky bounced literally top of that ridge and then down and over.
Let's go see his bed.
Yep.
Dang. Weird part is, his head was pointing this way. The wind came right up from his backtrack. He never saw us. There's no way. And but for 2 days he's kept the wind perfectly at his tail and clocks us. So we're gonna let him settle down for a half hour. He's tired. He fed a ton, so he's got to chew his cud. But he runs for a good mile sometimes. So we're gonna let him just settle down. We're gonna follow. But when we see he's feeding heavy, we know that he beds down about 200 yards after he feeds heavy. He'll nip the whole way along, and then he feeds, gorges himself. So what we're going to do is then we're going to make a loop downwind and hopefully come up on a ridge or some feature where we have the advantage. It's the best we can do. This guy is old, big, and smart.
We would get close to within, I don't know, sometimes 50 to 100 yards and bump him. The one thing this buck had that is the obvious skill that he personally possessed was his ability to read the wind and use it to his advantage. And I wanted to call the movie, you know, The Wind Master, but I thought it was too corny. But he was really good. He was so confident in the wind and the way the wind hit this particular mountain. It was so one-directional and so blustery that when he would lay down, he wouldn't even be facing his backtrack. He would face the other way, which is actually probably how he got so old. He would face the other direction and catch the wind from behind him. And it worked. Now, you might be asking, why didn't I, when I knew this information, why didn't I jump off the track and sort of get away from the wind and maybe come from a different angle? And the truth of the matter is most of the time I couldn't do that because I was just too tired. I could not catch up, go slow into the death creep, and then also cut him off in those mountains because I was just too tired. I had to hope that the wind would maybe shift a little bit and we would have an opportunity to get the buck.
Must have saw us right there. Hey, you know what? We're just gonna stay on.
Yep.
But this guy is so freaking tired that he's willing to do this over and over. We'll get him.
Yep.
I'm just gonna go the same speed over and over again. He'll make a mistake. Well, we're coming down the mountain. All the tracks of our buck were blown out. Talking about coming down the mountain. Down here there's not as much snow, so if we cut a track down here I'd follow it, but
Just wasn't worth it. And we got very lucky that the buck crossed this trail and it was depressed enough in the trail to be able to see his tracks. But as soon as he got off the trail, it was all blown in, that he's all wiped out. So there's nothing to follow. But we call him courteous for letting us know that he came back down the mountain and that we can't follow him. So he's now been called the courteous buck. Such is life. Off to another track, an adventure. As you know from the movie, we got very close. A GoPro doesn't do it justice either. That buck was only maybe 30, 35 yards. It looks like he was 20 miles away from us when he jumps up. So it was. That's why I decided to stay on that one buck, because I knew he was as tired as I was, and there was a chance I could get him. And there was no way I was leaving a buck. That was probably the biggest bodied buck I had ever tracked, and there was no way I was leaving him. No way. So if you have a late season, December, cold, blustery, they're working calories hunt, where that buck is tired and he has to feed and he's post-rut, you stay on him. You can stay on him every day and you'll learn a tremendous amount and you'll get very intimate with that experience, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I gave Brad Willie all the coordinates. I won't be going back to New Hampshire, but I gave Brad Willie all the coordinates, all my tracks on Onyx, and I gave him the skinny of every bed, and you can literally see this buck, how he had traveled a very similar path each day, but he was just so crafty. And there were a couple of times where he would slow down and he'd be peeking behind. I just couldn't get the gun up quick enough. And none of that was caught on tape. For whatever reason, we missed a lot of that, unfortunately. But I hope that I'm filling those gaps with my narration. I hope it's not too annoying, but I really wanted people to understand why we did what we did. So I hope that helps. So Scott just asked me, would I have done anything differently? Boy, that's a great question. Would I have done anything differently? And now I think about it. I think I would have had Noah stay closer to me. I would have been more attuned to my camera guy. I'm not used to having that. So if I could go back in time, I would have probably slowed down a little, because we could catch this buck. And I wasn't going fast. We went probably 4 to 6 miles a day, sometimes maybe a little more. I think I would have, it's always hindsight, right? But the whole time you're tracking, it's hard to contain your anxiety about it. And I think taming expectation is the hardest thing a tracker has to do. How close am I going to get? Am I going to make the shot? But I've learned through the years that luck plays a huge part. And frankly, I'm not sure I would have changed that much. I think I would have been a little bit more in tune with Noah. We would have walked a little closer together, so that our presence wasn't spread out as much as it would. We would sort of accordion through the woods at times. Thankfully, Noah was in much better shape than me, because I'm 55 and he's in his 20s. So that helped me have a camera guy that really could do the job. He was never breathing hard. I was half dead by that point. But I think that like every hunt, I would worry less and enjoy it more. I'm just so damn driven that sometimes I can make myself miserable. I wasn't miserable with this. It was a lot of fun, but it was a tough hunt. So I'm going to say the sort of classic line, and I think sometimes people say this to make themselves feel better. But I am at an age where this is genuine. I don't care if I get a buck that much. I know if I was to say that in my 30s, I never did, by the way, but if I was to say that in my 30s or even my 40s, I don't think that would have been true. But I'm in my 50s now, and I can see the end of my life. And what's important to me really is the experience of living with that buck the experience of being a part of the woods, the experience of being with the camera guy and establishing a relationship with a stranger. That's, you know, we started strangers at the beginning of the hunt, and at the end we were friends. All of these things I've learned are what matter. And so, you know, and my learning curve, I always talk about this. My learning curve was the first 9 years in the big woods I didn't get a buck. I made every mistake that could be made. Now, I've had a lot of success since then. But it really, I was taught early on, it's about the experience. It's about the 6 to 7 to 14 miles that you walk and what you feel inside. And so if you're beginning, if you're a beginner tracker or still hunter, stand hunter, it doesn't matter, and you're not successful, do not worry about it. The more you stay in the woods, the more you relax and learn to flow with nature, the more the success will land in your lap. I promise you. So that's all that matters in the end.